Thank you very much, everybody, for your feedback and comments on the interview with Charlie Smith. I really enjoyed it, and I think you did too. And a number of people have said that Charlie has many more stories to tell, and I think you're right. And come the end of lockdown, there definitely should be a Charlie Smith part two. My next guest, the Irish Times Review described his performance in Good Vibrations in the Lyric Theatre in 2018 as a class act, providing the substance, subtlety, and presence needed to underpin the high octane antics of the younger members of the cast. Well, he was quite young when he first stepped onto the Newry Town Hall stage in the Feis, like so many others, and after performing with local groups in the town and on tour, he went on to star with the Royal Shakespeare Company, performing the Globe Theatre, performing the West End in Billy Elliott, the 39 Steps, Wicked. And this time last year, as lockdown was coming upon us, he was on tour with Sting in The Last Ship. He's currently performing in a interactive, immersive, mind-boggling Cahoots NI production of the University of Wonder and Imagination. But before we have a chat, let's enjoy a delicate song from another Cahoots NI production, The Elves and the Shoemaker. The song is One Stitch at a Time, sung by Sean Kearns.
When I was a boy, Father used to tell me we are never quite alone. He would make me look up into the night sky, planets far beyond our own. He told me here, right where we stand, I'd lose my balance, he'd grab my hand.
I was at the Meadow Primary School, St Patrick's Primary School, and Malachi Delahunt was our choir master. So the first time I ever performed at the Feis was with the school choir. And then I was encouraged by my fantastic primary school teacher, Donald McCall, to then go into recitation. I think I was in either P5 or P6. Yeah, and it was bizarre. And I remember then when I went to the Abbey, I did then sort of performed in the Feis as a singer in solo singing, and I then got the fright. There was one year, I think it was maybe about 13, and I couldn't do it. Because and it was in those years when there were maybe 30, 40 people in your sort of class.
Yeah.
So you would sit watching them perform, and then you would have to go up and sit alongside, and Miss Ethel would be shouting, and it would be very quiet, and you sit there and you don't move. And so I remember vividly sitting watching maybe 20 lads singing their song, and I'm going, oh, that's not very good. He cracked a wee bit there. And so when I got up to sit on the row at the side, I just went, no, people are going to be doing that to me. So people are going to be saying, oh, he thinks he's great. And I couldn't do it. And that was the last time that I performed at the Feis, or didn't perform at the Feis, as it were.
You mentioned the school, mentioned the Abbey. You were involved with Smike up in the Abbey as a
Smike was yeah. Ray Spallon. That was, I think I was in second year, and that was the first play I had ever been in, and it was just incredible. It was absolutely incredible. Just the most amazing experience, because I wasn't sporty at school, and I wasn't very clever at school either, and I felt a wee bit out of my league. But doing a play or doing a musical was just the most amazing community, and you only know what you know, and so you assume that's how plays are directed, that's the way that goes, by being told exactly. So now you stand here and you say your line like this, and then you move your hand like that, and you go, okay, yep, and it was like, how high do you want me to jump? I'll jump 4 foot higher.
Uh-huh.
But it was astonishing. And through school then, so we did Smike, and then we did Joseph in Irish as part of the Irish
Irish
drama sort
Festival,
of
yeah.
festival. We did Trial by Jury in Irish as well. Uh, and it's very funny because in the Abbey, certainly when I was there, uh, on the one of the walls of the school, where there's loads of school photographs of all of the Gaelic players, and they're all like that, big blokes. And then in the middle of it all, there's a picture of me as Mrs. Potiphar and Joseph in a flapper's outfit, going, woo, So, uh, but school, but yeah, and I mean, amazing people. I mean, Ray Spallon was just an amazing guy at directing. Big Jed Mooney
Yeah.
was my English teacher at school,
Yeah.
and like an incredible teacher, an incredible, who instilled just a love of language,
And still
and
going strong, and
absolutely,
Game of
absolutely
Thrones.
popping up in the old Christmas Little ad or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
But then you I mean, that was the Abbey influence and the Abbey teacher. But then I suppose the college influence came in as well through Sean Hollywood.
Well, you see, Sean then would have seen me.
Did he poach you from the Abbey?
He did. He did. He came to my house in the meadow, and I think I was I just turned 15, and he asked me to come and be in a production with New Point players, and it was Habeas Corpus,
Hmm.
and that was the very very first play that I did with New Point, rehearsing in the old Citizens Advice Bureau,
In Bridge Street.
by the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, really cold, damp old room. But my God, what an incredible bunch of people! Derry Murphy and Sean and Sheila McGuigan, and Kate McSherry, and just, how could you not be inspired, with amazing people, and O'Hanlon and Sean Trainer,
Yeah.
Just a wonderful, wonderful community. And in the height of where we were politically and what was going on around us, it was the biggest world of escape.
Was there a theatrical background within your family growing up, or were you the
No,
first one to step
none,
onto the
none
stage?
whatsoever. My mum, God rest her, my mum was a beautiful singer, and so she sang in the house all the time. My dad played clarinet and saxophone, and he was in St. Kate's.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I suppose you could say there was culture of a sort within the household, but certainly nothing to do with sort of theatricality. You know.
Do you remember the first show you went to see in the town hall?
Yeah, I do very very vividly. And it was Charlie Smith Panto, and I think I was about 3 or 4 years old, and it was Jack and the Beanstalk, and it was just the most amazing thing. And I totally believed, and Geraldine Fitzpatrick was Jack, and it was just the most amazing thing, just the most amazing thing, you know. When I was at the Meadow, there were two P3 classes, and Miss Rafferty from Canal Street, who was my primary school teacher, who I absolutely loved. So she came into the class and she says, right, so we're getting ready now to get the nativity cast. So we need 16 boys from this class, and there'll be 16 boys from Miss Chiswell's class next door. So all of those who want to be in the nativity, put your hands up. There were 17 boys put their hands up, and I was the one who wasn't picked.
Ah,
I was the one who wasn't picked. And then to rub salt into the wounds, whenever my brother Kevin was in P3 and my brother Thomas was in P3, they were both in the nativity, and I wasn't. Fuming.
there's almost a Billy Elliott story in that one. But that Christmas season and pantomime became a big part of your professional life.
Panto to me is it's the most amazing thing for families, and people underrate it, and they poo-poo it, but if you can get a child to lean forward in their seat and believe what you're telling them. It's just the most amazing. And it's the safest place in the world because you can frighten them, uh, because ultimately good wins in the end. So the baddie always gets his comeuppance. So it's as safe as houses, so
Yeah.
so you can,
Yeah.
yeah. And I did panto nearly back to back for almost 20 years.
Is that my goodness? Yeah.
You, yeah,
Your
yeah.
costumes were outrageous.
Oh, they were, yeah. And then my sort of so then the biggest panto that I did was at the Liverpool Empire. Uh, so I played Widow Twankey in Aladdin, and Les Dennis was my son. Pamela Anderson was the genie.
Wow.
Um, that was a huge, big commercial, like money no object,
Uh-huh.
just like incredible,
Yeah.
absolutely incredible.
Looking at the stepping stones then, Sean, from New Point and the Musical Society into the professional theatre, you were then with Ulster Youth Theatre
Yeah, yeah.
for a time.
So, yeah, so Michael Poyner, the Ulster Youth Theatre was an organisation headed by the Arts Council of Northern Ireland, and and I suppose they were to not rival, but they were our version of the National Youth Theatre in England. Um, and Michael, it was amazing because it was residential.
Hmm.
So we rehearsed 6 days a week. We stayed in Queen's Halls of Residence. The first year we did Godspell up in Riverside and Coleraine, so that's where we stayed. So we did Godspell, Grease, West Side Story, um, just like amazing working with professional support, so professional director, professional choreographers, and Anne Marie Brady, now Anne Marie Morgan. Then Anne Marie came into that, and so she was one of the choreographers on West Side Story. um, but like it's just amazing because you are with 30 other people who love doing what you love to do.
You went professionally up to the Riverside Theatre to do
I played the Cowardly Lion and
put
the
them up,
Wizard
put
of
them up.
Oz. Yeah, that was my very first job. Again, directed by Michael Poyner, who had cast me through the youth theatre. And for a big bloke, eh, and having gone through musicals, it just gave you a sense of knowing where you were physically, what to do with your hands, what to do with your arms, because there. So it was just a really good grounding, and the work ethic that I got from that is what I still have today.
Hmm.
Going through, and then that gave me the confidence to um, to audition for the big shows in the West End because I didn't go to drama college. I got rejected by every single college that I applied to. And then I just thought, once I got my first job, I just learned on the job and learned
Uh-huh.
from brilliant experiences, learned from not so brilliant experiences, learned from very generous actors, very ungenerous, so you very quickly find your way, and well, that's not how I want to behave towards anybody, or
Yeah.
that's not how I want to talk to anybody or be spoken to by, so yeah, big learning curve,
About
huge learning curve.
a big step up then to work with the Royal Shakespeare Company.
That was astonishing. That was absolutely astonishing. So I did 2 seasons back to back. The first year I did the Scottish play, uh, and then Ionescu has done an absurdist version of that called Macbeth,
Hmm.
and then a new Anthony Nielsen play as well, which opened at the Soho Theatre in London. And then the following year I did Merchant of Venice and Taming of the Shrew. That was like incredible, incredible. A wee boy from the Meta in Newry who's never gone to college, and suddenly you're there, and yeah, absolutely. And I still keep pinching myself and just going, I'm I'm nobody. And I did some amazing stuff and did a brilliant production of Henry the Fourth, Part One and Two with Roger Allam playing Falstaff. And Roger Allam, whenever I first went to London to seek my fame and fortune, Roger Allam was playing a policeman in a very, very sort of like little known French musical called Les Miserables.
Uh-huh.
I used to work front of house selling programs on that show and just going. So I saw that show every night for nearly a year with all of the original cast, with Paddy Lapone, with Michael Ball, Francis Raffel, Colin
So
Wilkinson.
back in mid 80s then.
Yeah. And then for me, what was absolutely beautiful was then when I got cast as Jimmy's dad in The Commitments, that played in the palace
Uh-huh.
where Les Mis
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
been, so that was just glorious.
You had the Commitments, Billy Elliott, Wicked, big
Yeah,
shows in the West End, Sean.
yeah, 39 Steps, comedy about a bank robbery. Like, absolutely bonkers,
But
bonkers.
when you say you're a wee fella from the meadow, and it's when I sometimes think when you're in the middle of it and you realize that everyone around you is a wee boy or a wee girl from
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, absolutely.
You've also come around yourself to direct shows.
Yeah, I directed a Christmas Carol at the Mac 2 Christmases ago, and that was just lovely to be able to do that and to make a show from the other side.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was scary.
How Christmassy was the Christmas Carol?
Very. It was gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous, if I say so myself. It was really magical, and it was set in a theatre, and Scrooge was an old theatre producer, and we had, which then nobody had heard of this before until lockdown, but the ghost light. So the ghost light is always left on so that when the theatre closes at night, um, ghosts can see their way.
Okay.
And actually, there used to be a couple of theatres in London up until very recently. There are certain seats that they don't sell. Those are ghost seats.
Right.
And I think the Palace had a few of them, but then when Harry Potter came in, they just went, no, we want every single seat.
We need to
But
sell
yeah,
that
yeah,
seat. Ghost or no
absolutely,
ghost.
absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, it's been a strange year, and it's been a tough year for so many people on so many fronts. And it's sometimes difficult to get it into perspective just how you pitch the challenges that any community has faced. But for the creative community, it's been a really tough year. Essentially everywhere closed.
Yeah.
Where were you when the sort of lockdown started to happen, Sean?
Well, this time last year, I was doing an American tour of a musical called The Last Ship, which was written by Sting,
Hmm.
and Sting was in the show himself. So I mean, it was incredible. We had done 6 weeks in Los Angeles, and then we moved to San Francisco. But we kept watching the news from Europe, and Italy was the big one at that point, and just going,
Yeah.
oh my God, what's happening? What's happening? So we got to San Francisco, and we were there for 3 weeks, and we were shut down because of the pandemic, and then we had to be flown uh, back into an unknown world, and just going, what is actually happening? Because we're just getting all these reports about supermarkets being emptied of toilet rolls,
Yeah.
and just going, what? Does it give you a loose bum, or so what's the big obsession with toilet rolls? Um,
Nobody knew. Nobody's ever got the answer to
no,
that question.
absolutely, absolutely. So I came back. We had 12 weeks of the tour left, which were cancelled. And for the first time, and it was terrifying, Declan, for the first time ever, I did not know where my next job was coming from.
Mm,
Not a clue.
yeah.
And no idea when that was going to open up or if it was going to open up. I think like all of us, we thought it would run through in 6 weeks and
Yeah.
then it would have gone away.
Yeah.
But that became very evident that it wasn't the case. So it really was terrifying, just going, and as a 55-year-old man with no other skill set, I applied. I could not get a job to save my life.
Yeah.
Couldn't get a job stacking shelves in Tesco's. And I'm just going, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to support my family? How am I going to live? And it was tough, and
Yeah.
it still is tough, and it's tough for an awful lot of people. But I have been incredibly lucky because I've been working with a company called Cahoots NI, um, and we've been doing this amazing virtual show on Zoom. Because one of the big disadvantages with Zoom is there's no, you can't overlap dialogue. You can't, so it's all very stilted and very, very stop starting. I'm like, oh, is it Michael? Oh,
There's delays all over
Paul.
the place.
No, absolutely. So Paul McAneny, who's an Armagh man, who is the founder and the director of the company, he really, really put his head, just went, right, I need to try and make this work. So it's almost like an outside broadcasting unit with the equipment, but we are touring. Like tomorrow, I am playing Brookville, New York, with this show.
Right.
We've played a week in Las Vegas. We've played a week in Iowa. We were in New Hampshire. And it's an hour-long interactive show where I will speak directly to you and ask you questions, and your answers will determine what happens on your journey.
That just doesn't really give you the feedback of a full Palace Theatre in London, though, does it? It's not going to replace that experience. We need to get the theatre again, don't we?
No, it doesn't. We do. But in saying that, we did one show last week, and it was just so beautiful. And it was a mother and her son, and then on another screen were the mother's parents, so the grandparents, and just seeing families connect, and that's what's been happening. A lot of families have been booking out each entire show. So the 10 family who are all part of the one big family.
Yeah.
That's who we do it for. So they're reconnecting with each other. So.
Oh yeah, there's magic
And that's
in
really
there as
sweet.
well then.
Well, absolutely. And it is a show full of magic and illusion where you're going, what? How did they do that?
The just before we sort of wrap up, Sean, I came across a clip of you singing a beautiful song, One Stitch at a Time.
That was from a Cahoots show, the company that I'm working with now. It was from the Elves and the Shoemaker, which we did at the Mac maybe 3-4 years ago, which was a beautiful, beautiful show. Again, full of magic, but real magic and metaphorical magic and just theatrical magic. Beautiful show about this wee shoe shop that was about to be sort of shut down. Emer McDade, Declan McDade's daughter,
yes,
played the baddie in it. She was astonishing, absolutely astonishing. But it was just full of charm, and it was really old-fashioned, and these kids really cared about the fate of Bet and Stan, who owned the shoe shop, and the kids cried, going, "Don't go!"
When I was a boy, Father used to tell me, we are never quite alone. He would make me look up into the night sky, planets far beyond our own. He told me here, right where we stand, I'd lose my balance, he'd grab my hand